From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson. Quarterbacks continue to be a point of emphasis at OSU with question marks as to who exactly will be the starter. It looks like J.W. Walsh, but Kyle Fredrickson joins us on the phone right now. And Kyle, some interesting stuff going on last week as Mike Gundy's talking about Dax Garman getting snaps and just different things going on. Sort of give us an idea of where things stand right now with the quarterback situation.
You're right. You know, it's been a few interesting developments over the past week or so with just a few things that Mike Gundy has said about the quarterback situation. But to really set the scene, I mean, let's take it back to spring when J.W. Walsh finishes the spring game, and I think everyone at that point had kind of, figured he was going to be the starter. But as summer camp went on and fall camp went on, I think it became pretty clear that guys like Mason Rudolph and Dax Garman have closed the gap a little bit. Since then, Gundy has been pretty mum on who's going to be the starter and has gone, above and beyond to say that, we think that multiple guys could play this year situationally. And he only fueled that fire when I think it was last Tuesday when he said that Dax Garman's preparing to take 10 or 12 snaps, which, is in line with what he had said, that he wants to use quarterbacks situationally. But we're talking about a guy here who hasn't played in a football game, really, since he was a junior in high school. So there's a lot to prove there. Of course, with Mason Rudolph, they like the things that he brings to the table. He's just so inexperienced. So there's definitely a lot more conversation going on about it. I think Walsh is still that clear front runner as far as who's going to start against Florida State. But who knows after that? If one of these other guys does come in and plays and shows that he can do well against a very stout defense, I don't see there any reason why Gundy would make a change early in the year and try to find out who's the one guy he's going to stick with.
Well, it sounds like at least at this point that you're going to have two quarterbacks play against Florida State. We're assuming J.W. Walsh is the one who's going to get the lion's share. Then those 10 to 12 snaps that Dax Garman sounds like he's going to get. Is there a chance we see three quarterbacks against Florida State? Do you feel like two is what we'll see against Florida State in the opener, or could we see all three, Kyle?
I mean, I think it's possible that we could see all three. I asked Mike Gundy at OSU Media Days the chances that they would redshirt Rudolph, what they think about it. He basically said it's a little bit too early to tell. I think in situations like that, if you have two guys that you think can play, it would make sense to redshirt the guy. But if he's neck and neck in the race for that starting job, I mean, there's no reason that Gundy wouldn't want to put him out there to see what he can do. But you just figure they'd hate to burn that redshirt year if they didn't have to. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens August 30th.
Lastly, a slight twist, talking about Oklahoma State quarterbacks, a guy who no doubt would have figured into this equation had he stuck around. Wes Lunt landed at Illinois. And Kyle, what's the latest with Wes Lunt?
Well, Wes is in a position battle himself. I think that might surprise some people, being that he's in Big Ten country where maybe the quarterback races aren't as intense, and a guy with his skill set would seem to kind of flourish, in the Illini system there. But he had a very poor spring game back in April, and there was a lot of questions about whether he was going to be the guy. So I'm going to take a look at that and say, hey, if Wes had stayed, would he be the starter? I mean, I think that's an intriguing question, and then I'll take some time to look into that and do some film study and kind of see how he might figure into this race. It's kind of an interesting subplot to what could have been this season.
Could have been a 4-quarterback race. Goodness gracious. Hey,
Yeah,
be sure to stay with the
what we needed.
Yeah, just exactly what we needed, exactly. We'll be following that as the Cowboys get closer to that August 30th opener against Florida State. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.